Hello and welcome to ILTV's Insider. I'm Aaron Porras, and our main topic tonight, stalled coalition talks for the 37th Israeli government. Would-be incoming Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is at an impasse as he battles through demands for ministerial positions both from within and without. So what will it take to navigate the negotiations, as well as pressures from allies in Washington? Joining me to discuss is Likud Party political advisor Jonathan Oz and Adam Scott Bellos, host of JNS's Wine with Adam and founder and CEO of the Israel Innovation Fund. Adam, Jonathan, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so I'm going to start right away with the supposed thorn in Netanyahu's negotiation side, which is Bezalel Smotrich. He's been demanding either the finance or the defense ministry. As we know, Netanyahu doesn't really want to give him either, but he has a preference for the defense ministry. My question is, why is he so hell-bent on getting the defense ministry, and what can Netanyahu offer him to appease his demands if he doesn't get it? Jonathan, I'll start with you.
Well, I'll surprise you. I don't think that he really wants to be the defense minister in the first place. I mean, what really is Bezalel Smotrich, his concern, his main concern, is to be more than Gov't. Bezalel Smotrich ended these elections with a magnificent 14 mandates, but the majority of these mandates came from voters that voted for Itamar Ben-Gvir, in fact. And he knows that if Itamar Ben-Gvir is the Minister of Interior Defense, and he's something of not such a senior position or such a senior portfolio himself, then he has a problem next time in his own electorate of religious people. So I think that's what he's really concerned about. And I think that Netanyahu has to find some kind of a hybrid portfolio to appease, to satisfy this need of Bezalel Smotrich. And if it won't be Minister of Finance, then it will have to be some sort of maybe Minister of Interior with some other more elaborated authorities or such.
Adam, I know you have some inside contacts here and there. What are people saying about this?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Absolutely not. Listen, I think it's very clear that what he's doing is it's a smart political move on Smotrich's part, trying to get finance and defense. Obviously, those are two portfolios that Bibi has held personally. I mean, we can all thank Benjamin Netanyahu for the economic revolution that he started when he was finance minister under Sharon. The thing is that Smotrich is causing a problem internationally because of his comments that are anti-LGBTQ, anti-non-Orthodox Judaism, or Jewish observers, so to speak, that don't follow traditional Judaism. And he's alienating a significant amount of the portion of the Israeli population that really don't fall under his mandate. So this is a huge deal how Netanyahu, in my opinion, will handle where he places them. I think Jonathan's right about him not really wanting the defense ministry. I mean, personally, if you look at his IDF record or his professional record,
finish his IDF
right? What history, what accomplishments, what background does he have to either be defense or finance, which are two of the most important posts a politician could get. So I definitely agree with you that he wants to be something stronger than Ben-Gvir. There were tons of talks about them splitting prior to the elections. His popularity has significantly sank based on his behavior. And Itamar Ben-Gvir is a very big political rival, so to speak. And I agree. They're trying to play for something more than they will get. And, the Ministry of Interior or Religious Affairs is something that he could possibly get. I think he was appointed temporarily to the Justice Department before he was replaced by by a Likudnik. It was Ohana who was replaced, correct?
It was a very short appointment, but he was, the majority of his ministerial time was as Minister of Transportation, which he did quite good in everyone's view. On the other hand, I must disagree about something. I know that people raise the international concerns about Smotrich as a major reason not to give him the Ministry of Defense. I'm not sure that that's the main issue that
I didn't mean
Netanyahu sees in his
that's
mind.
something that Netanyahu brought up, though, with maybe it's not such a big issue in Netanyahu's actual, in his actual priorities.
Yes, but he didn't.
But he did bring it up as
not
something
publicly. Not publicly. He didn't speak about that publicly. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he didn't say anything publicly to.
According to many reports, after his meeting with Ambassador Tom Nides, the United States
it's quite clear. It's quite clear that this is not something that Bibi wants to do, and I don't think it's something that the country wants.
He's just using the United States as an excuse.
Yeah. But I have to disagree. I mean, we're part of this endless spin game. Everybody leak something out of any meeting, and I don't contest that. I mean, I'm sure that the Americans don't want him to be Minister of Defense. I just say, I just think that it's not a main issue for Bibi. I think the main issue for Bibi Netanyahu is that he views in his mind the next war, the next operation, and he doesn't want to see Smotrich, in my opinion, aside him as Minister of Defense, managing a war while he wasn't even.
He has no combat experience.
He hardly has. He's hardly been a soldier.
So,
and I think another thing that he thinks about is that he has experienced people in the Likud, like General Yoav Gallant, for example, that can manage the next war, and I think that's more of a concern for him. But you know, Bezalel Smotrich, one of the problems of him, as I see it, is that he has no barrier for his tongue. I mean,
yes.
I mean, one of the reasons that it is such a problem to
that's something that you were saying a minute ago.
I mean,
he's burning himself.
No, he's burning himself. And I mean, listen, look at the way the English Jewish community reacted to his visit a couple of months ago. They told him to go back to Israel. I mean, it's Ben Gvir and Smotrich both have a problem with their mouths, and they could probably accomplish so much more with what they would like to accomplish in terms of social and religious reforms.
With Ben Gvir, at least, we've seen him pull back in recent weeks.
A little bit.
He's in op-ed reaching out across the aisle.
Did you really think that was a sincere? I mean, if you read it, I mean, he
it's
talks
very
about
political. I mean,
it's political, but I mean, just because you took down a picture of Baruch Goldstein less than 2 years ago doesn't mean you've changed that much.
Well, and here's another thing to keep in mind, though, is you're saying that his mouth is getting him into a lot of trouble, but at the same time, it's part of what got him into the position he's in the first place. Him being both of them being very, very outspoken is part of what galvanized their voter base.
Do you think it's just being outspoken, or do you think it's about being the loudest in the room? Because, have you ever seen the movie American Gangster with Denzel Washington?
Yes. Yeah.
There's that scene in the club where Denzel says, the loudest guy in the room is the weakest guy in the room. And I don't think they represent strength anymore. I think that having to scream and shout, like, it's not a gentlemanly way to behave in politics, in my opinion.
I beg to differ. I mean,
that's okay.
I mean, there's a big difference between Bezalel Smotrich and Ben Gvir.
For sure.
In these terms, because just a second, because Bezalel Smotrich, Ben Gvir was elected because of his loud mouth, but right now, he wants to maintain his goals, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think now he needs to prove himself.
Ben Gvir is trying to mainstream himself.
Yeah, exactly.
So
just a second,
Smotrich is not.
Smotrich, on the other hand, his problem is that 1 second after the elections, for example, he got himself in a semi-clash with the unions, and that's one of the reasons that it's not so easy to make him Minister of Finance now. He could have waited a month or two to be a libertarian, okay? Yeah.
Well, so where does Aryeh Deri from the Shas party then fit into this? Is he a pawn for Netanyahu to leverage against Smotrich?
Well, Deri's wife came out saying he has no place in the finance ministry, and somebody who's been to jail twice for corruption has no place touching the national finances. I mean, personally, in my opinion, not having to do with anything with Shas, but in terms of Mr. Deri, I do not believe he belongs in any government anymore after being sent to prison twice for corruption. But that's just my opinion.
I won't comment on that. But,
I don't blame you, because I'm stepping in deep water when I say things like that.
You know, there's also all the rumor mill about the incoming coalition's plan to pass the override bill in order to override the Knesset Elections Committee to install
I don't.
Deri
I don't.
any position.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, okay. I thought you were going with the BB thing, because I was going to say I don't think anything having to do with Aryeh Deri is even close to the BB situation. But listen, we do have an issue in this country without holding some politicians to accountability, and there should be a law that states, if you go to jail for corruption using your political office, you should not be allowed to run again, and that's a very common thing in most democracies. So. I do think it's one thing that we do lack, personally.
Is that something that Netanyahu might back?
I think that even if Aryeh Deri won't be able to be minister by himself, then he will appoint someone that can be from Shas party. So that's not
for
the
finance
main issue. Not for finance, maybe. But I'm not sure that that's what he wants anyway. I don't know. I mean, what you said has some grounds of Netanyahu using Aryeh Deri as some kind of a leverage. Everybody knows that they are completely coordinated for many years, and Aryeh Deri doesn't demand anything that Bibi Netanyahu doesn't agree in advance. So I'm not sure that's how he will end up. I think that it's a way of getting Smotrich into the corner, to understanding that, okay, I will put Minister of Interior, maybe some other, some nice things to have with it, but not much more. I don't think that, I mean, it's easy to say it now, because when we will be closer to the end, to the deadline, maybe everybody will feel a bit different, but
well, hopefully
right now it doesn't look like that. If I had to bet, I wouldn't place my bets on either.
Well, so here's another thing that I found very interesting was the several rumors speaking about Gantz and Lapid potentially negotiating with Lapid, which Bibi, Lapid, and Gantz have all rejected outright.
So I spoke to my contacts in both parties, and unfortunately, apparently, it is completely unfounded and not true. And they are refusing to join the coalition, as they stated right after the election. And I think it is one of the I think this will go down as one of the greatest failings of leadership from the change bloc. I mean,
from Gantz and Lapid.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, obviously, we saw the immaturity of their political maneuvering in this last election, and their and especially Lapid's failure to consolidate his bloc, and Labor's failure. I mean, like, we're looking at two party leaders who had no chance of becoming prime minister, who actually thought that they would be prime minister, one who ended up with only 5 mandates, and now Meretz is out because they refused to merge.
Right.
So, I mean, if you take somebody like Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz, who are both great Israelis, whether or not I agree with them or disagree with them in their politics, they're they're good men, like, they're not bad people, but their whole thing was this cultural revolution, this change. What would be the future of the country? What's going to be the identity of the Israeli people? What will the economy look like? What will the relationship with its Jewish citizens and its Arab citizens look like? And I do really feel that it's very irresponsible for them not to set aside their personal differences and join the person that has been elected in all of these elections, like, overwhelmingly, to be the prime minister. And when you live in a democracy, you are meant to work with the leader who is elected. And I do feel that there is a little bit of ego in the change bloc that really set back their agenda.
So where are a lot of these rumors coming from, though? Because I feel like it's maybe even a controlled leak to test the public's view on such a deal.
Let me be a bit nasty, okay?
Be nasty.
They are saying to you that it's not an option on their side because they know it's not an option on the Likud side. I mean...
But is it really not a non-starter from Likud?
I mean, from the greatest political pragmatist? Really?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it ultimately help Netanyahu in his current negotiations, particularly with Ben Gvir and Smotrich, if he had the added leverage of somebody like Gantz joining the mix?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've all learned the lesson of Bougie Herzog in 2015 and later on of Gantz himself. Let's talk for a second about Gantz and not about Netanyahu. If Gantz now joins again the government,
After being burned in his dual government?
It means that next time the only leader of the leftist side of the map is Yair Lapid and no one else. You know, if Gantz has any chance to be somewhat of a competition.
Oh, I completely disagree with you.
I would also disagree because Gantz could come out then as a centrist
right,
who can connect between the left and the right. And studies show that some 70% of Israel has swayed to the right anyway.
You know, these studies and these polls are all up to what you ask. Of course, people went to the right, but people that didn't vote for the Likud party or I don't know. I don't even know how to translate the religious Zionism or whatever. But all the people that voted for the right wing knew that Bibi will be their prime minister, and the ones that didn't just didn't want Bibi. So it's true that people aren't looking anymore at right and left wing with the eyes of Judea and Samaria and stuff like that, right? But I don't think that if you look at the different personalities right now, if Gantz joins, he's just doing the same mistake again. But I'm not his advisor, and I'm not in his.
Would you advise him to join or to try at least?
I'll say something different. I think that the voters of the right wing and the voters of the Likud expect the Likud to form a right-wing government. Nobody wants any more of these hybrid, not sure of themselves governments, and that's the general expectation of the voters. Now, if we had only 61 mandates, then there was maybe something to talk about.
64 is not a
It's a lot more. It's a huge difference.
I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people have made over these last couple of elections is constantly counting Benny Gantz out. I actually think he has more of a long-term stay in the political future than Yair Lapid. To be completely honest, he's a salt of the earth, former chief of staff. He's not left. I mean, like, I wouldn't call him left. I would call him center-right, personally. And I think that's what...
Politically, there's a huge difference.
I mean,
There is.
But at the end of the day, everybody has constantly counted him out, and he has constantly defied the polls and defied the expectations of everybody. And I think that's very important. He's gone up. 2 elections ago or 3 elections ago, I lose track since we've had so many in the last couple of years. There was a time where they were saying he wasn't going to cross the threshold. Michal Cutler-Wunsch left his party because of that 2 elections ago, and he got over 10 mandates, if I'm correct, or 10 mandates, and alone 8. Yeah. And I mean, like, that was double the threshold. So, I agree with what you're saying about personalities and the stability of a government, and 150%, I'm completely there with you. But I do think that people hold Gantz in a very high regard. I think, just based on some of the Shabbat dinners that I've been to with many right-wing people, as funny as that sounds, I'm always very surprised to hear such positivity about Benny Gantz and his character. And I think that he has done a very good job being a mensch in public. And I think that is, I've never heard anybody not refer to him that way. And, it mostly people who don't vote for him, and let's say instead of voting for him or voting for Bibi, are voting for Bibi because they want a strong, prime minister with a ton of mandates. I do think if somebody was maybe that was not Netanyahu at the helm of the Likud,
vote.
Yeah,
it's not so much ideological.
Exactly. Like
I hugely disagree. I mean,
we finally found something to disagree about.
Right.
This is great.
I mean, nobody knows what will happen after Netanyahu in the Likud, but I think that it's knowing. I mean, I've seen many polls, both ones that were published to the public and others. And I think that if Netanyahu wasn't the leader of the Likud right now, the Likud could have received maybe as low as 20 mandates or lower. Because right now, the people vote for Netanyahu not only because of plain political views like as they can be drafted on a paper, okay? I think people look at him as representing something maybe against the way that our legal system is built, against the way that the institutions of this country are founded and the people that are compromised by them, of which they are compromised. And I don't think that the shift between Benny Gantz and Bibi Netanyahu is so easy. I think that if Bibi Netanyahu, not that that's an option right now, yeah, but if the Likud was right now without Bibi Netanyahu, then you would see the Itamar Ben-Gvir and his friends maybe stronger.
I mean,
a lot stronger.
we also don't know who would replace Bibi at this time. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that the Change Bloc made was thinking that we're done with the Bibi Netanyahu era. And I think it's very important to take into context, the historical context of who Bibi is, what he's doing, how long he's been serving, why he's been serving, and what he's accomplished. And the economic revolution that he started has created modern Israel. And he also completely ushered in Shimon Peres's more perfected idea of a new Middle East with the Abraham Accords. And, you know, I have my disagreements about Netanyahu. It's not like I think he's the king of us or something. But I think it was a very, very big miscalculation. And I don't think the Change Bloc has started to even do any retrospective, you know, looking inward to see where did we mess up, why are we stuck on our...
reflected in their division going into the opposition.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's, yes, I would agree with you there, but, you know, we are not done with the Netanyahu era. And it's, you know, I hear a lot of people talk about term limits and things like that and needing to bring them up in Israel now because of this. No, I agree with you.
That's a whole nother discussion.
No, it's a whole other discussion. We're still in the building phase of this country. It's only 75 years old. We've had great leaders. And I think it was a very big miscalculation these last couple of elections. We wasted billions of shekels, and we need our politicians to work together. You know, ideologically, there isn't much that separates them. It's very few things. The biggest divide in this country is between Arab Muslim and Arab Christian, first of all. You know, that's a very important distinction to make. And, you know, after that, it's between, you know, extreme religious and totally secular. You know, there's a middle ground in this country that's quite large.
Well, I think that message of having a middle ground and wanting everybody to come together is a good place to,
it's a pipe dream.
Unfortunately, end it. I want to thank you to Adam and to Yonatan. Thank you so much for joining us today in the studio. And thank you, everybody at home, for watching. I'm Aaron Porras. This was ILTV's Insider. Please tune in next time for more on everything Israel. And let us know in the comments online if there's a topic you'd like us to cover. And finally, for more of the latest updates from Israel, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at iltv.tv. Thank you again. Be well, and we'll see you soon.